Hey, what's up, everyone? Animal Based Dad here. So, just over 74 hours into my 120-hour fast now, so past the halfway mark. Basically on the downhill now, approaching the home stretch, and feel really good still. Like, yeah, feel pretty good still. Today I had no issues with energy. Um, Woke up this morning, felt fine. Yeah, no issues with energy at all. No dizziness, no listlessness, no struggles concentrating. Workday was good. Got a really good workout in again. Um, so second really good high intensity workout of the week. It was upper body today, so it felt like a lot more effort. But I'm a heavy dude. Like I'm 96 kilos at the moment. I don't know what that is in pounds, and I don't know what that is in stone. But heavy. Um, So body weight pull ups, that's a mission. To do multiple sets of 8 to 10 reps at my weight, like that's it's a good effort. It's high intensity work. It takes a lot of effort to get yourself up and down there. But yeah, didn't struggle with energy. Made it through the whole workout. Didn't struggle for energy. Felt good again afterwards. Didn't feel quite as euphoric as I did yesterday, which was interesting. I think maybe a fair bit of yesterday's euphoric feeling was the surprise at how good I felt and how much energy I had. So I felt just as good today, had just as much energy, didn't have quite the same level of euphoria. And maybe it's because the workout was a little bit harder work today, being an upper body workout. Maybe it's because I kind of knew what to expect and I was hoping to feel. Um, so yeah, so interesting. Didn't feel the same level of euphoria, but still felt great. Had great energy the whole way through. Good solid workout in. And then this afternoon, I had the privilege of partaking in a podcast as a guest with Ryan Douglas at the Health Wealth podcast. So it's the second time that I've got to sit down with Ryan and talk with him. I first did that last September, and I'll repost that discussion was split into two parts. So part one and two from last year. So I'll repost those on my YouTube channel now as well. Um, but yeah, had a good sit down chat with him. We spoke about what I call gaming the system, which is going into the detail about how humans using our intelligence and our ingenuity for various survival related reasons learned how to overcome our inherent biological restrictions and use foods, predominantly plant foods, which are not immediately edible. So, not stuff that you can just pick up and eat, but stuff that you have to either undertake a certain process with and then cook or just cook. But there's a process required to make that thing edible before you can have it. Potatoes are a great example. So I don't know if many people know, but potatoes through solanine, I think it's pronounced solanine or solamine, but there's a toxin in potatoes, which if you don't cook the potato adequately, that toxin causes you damage, and potatoes actually kill more people through solanine poisoning per year than sharks do, which I thought was a fascinating little fact, which for anyone who knows how to sort of lie with statistics, you could then turn around and say that potatoes are more dangerous than sharks. Now, obviously, that's a bit of a stretch at best, but yeah. So, potato poisoning, solanine poisoning through the eating of un, inadequately prepared or inadequately stored potatoes can kill you. So you have to cook the potato. If you try to eat raw potato, you're going to give yourself, best case scenario, you're going to give yourself a wicked case of indigestion. Like you're really going to be unwell for that. But worst case scenario, it will kill you. They're toxic. Um, Other good examples, I guess, would be pumpkin. Like you're not able to eat raw pumpkin. You have to prepare that properly, cook it properly. Grains are another fantastic example. You can't eat raw wheat. You get nothing out of it, and you'll do yourself a bit of a disservice in terms of like indigestion and you give yourself a bad case of the runs, I think. Your body wouldn't like that. But so you have to prepare grains adequately and not just cook them. Like there's a whole process to getting to the part of the grain that you can use, which you then need to cook to be able to eat. Like rice, like you can't eat raw rice; it'll do you harm. So we went into stuff like that, and we talked about how fire was probably our first massive step forward in terms of being able to make edible things that we otherwise couldn't rely on. So obviously we're going a long way back in time, but what the anthropologists reckon is we learn how to harness fire and use fire, arguably first for protection and for light at night, sort of fire around where you're sleeping to keep the other predators at bay. And then at some point we discovered that you can cook stuff with fire, and that in cooking stuff you make the stuff that you can eat easier to digest and more palatable, right? So like a grilled steak is easier to digest and it's more palatable than a raw steak. There's nothing wrong nutrition wise, nothing wrong with a raw steak. You can eat raw steak and you will get all the essential nutrition out of it, just the same as if you eat a cooked steak. No real difference there. In fact, the raw steak is probably a little bit more nutrient dense than the cooked steak. The process of cooking, there's a bit of a trade-off. So you get the palatability and the increased digestibility, but you get a slight decrease in the nutritional value. You lose a little bit of that nutrition in the cooking. But yeah, so steak is an example of what you can eat raw, can eat cooked. So the use of fire that became an advantage to us from a survival perspective was we figured out that you could cook other things. Boiling potatoes as a rudimentary example. Grilling leeks, maybe. I think if you eat raw leeks, you're going to give yourself a nasty case of stomach cramps and a bit of indigestion as well. But if you grill leeks, suddenly you can eat them. Like it nullifies those plant defense chemicals, and it helps to break down the fibers and stuff and make it a bit more easily digestible. So fire was our first step towards gaming the system. The first way we learned how to take things that we otherwise couldn't eat and couldn't rely on, and to make them edible and to make them accessible to us. The next step was agriculture. So learning how to domesticate plants and animals. So agriculture was a big step forward in terms of taking really suboptimal plant options and interfering with their biology through selective breeding, and then more recent times through actual bioengineering and interfering with the DNA strands to make them more edible, more delicious, higher abundance. Like take a few minutes and go Google what corn, maize, or mealies for us South Africans, what the original plant looked like, the wild, undomesticated version of corn. Go look at that. It's a type of grass. It looks absolutely nothing like what we know corn or mealies to be now. We selectively bred that. We bioengineered that grass into what we have today as corn, as maize. Right? The same with the wild mustard plant. We took the wild mustard plant and through various selective breeding techniques and over a long time, we created broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, kale, and kohlrabi, I think it's pronounced. But we created all of those different varieties out of the same plant. So people might be familiar with them being like cousin plants or something like that. Well, no, actually they have the same common ancestor. They didn't naturally occur. So cabbage didn't naturally occur from the wild mustard plant. That we interfered. Human beings selectively bred and created the cabbage and the Brussels sprouts and the cauliflower and so on and so forth. So that was the next step, sort of like agricultural intervention to domesticate things, to make them better yield, arguably more digestible, more easily access nutrition from them. And now these are all suboptimal things. So if you look at the things that you have to cook before you can eat it, it's suboptimal in terms of nutrient density and bioavailability. We'll get onto that in a second, but it's suboptimal from a nutrient density and bioavailability perspective to the things that you can eat raw. So the stuff that's inherently available and digestible to you, the stuff that you can eat raw and don't struggle with, so fruits, meats, eggs, stuff like that. You can char that stuff raw, and it's far more nutrient dense and it's far more bioavailable for you, versus anything that you have to first process and or cook in order to access that nutrition. You don't get the same quality of nutrition out of the things that you have to process and cook first as you do from the stuff that you could eat raw. Like that's just how it works. Now, what bioavailability is, for those who are a little bit unsure, it means that the nutrients within that thing come in the correct form that your body is able to digest and assimilate, which is to absorb and use. So many plants have many of the vitamins that are listed as our essential vitamins, vitamins A, B, C, K, but they come in different forms, right? It's not just all the same. You get different forms of it. And a lot of the plants, specifically the ones, or especially the ones that you have to process and cook first, will have these vitamins within them, will have these nutrients within them, but will have them in forms that our system cannot use well. It's not bioavailable to us. There's things that interfere with its digestion and its assimilation, and we don't use it optimally. Whereas the stuff that you don't have to cook, the stuff that you don't have to process, have those same vitamins and nutrients, but have them in the bioavailable form, which means the form that our bodies can access without needing additional processing and all of that. Like, it's bioavailable to us. We can use it, and we can use it optimally, and that makes a big difference. Then, now we move on to the third thing, and that's industrialization. So, the use of industrial processes and procedures to make things available to us. So examples of this would be, oh dear, and I suppose a good way to describe this. So agriculture gave us the ability to domesticate things, and we've always to a degree had to process certain things. So we've always had to soak beans before we boil them and eat them. We've always had to soak cassava before you can do anything with that, because that's high in cyanide and it will do you proper harm if you don't process it properly. So I'm not necessarily talking about that kind of processing. What I'm talking about is industrial processing, is machines and equipment. So the fact that we can now extract seed oils, right? Everyone wants to call them vegetable oils. They're not vegetable oils, so seed oils. So things like sunflower oil, canola oil, rapeseed oil, which is the same as canola oil, just, yeah. Grapeseed oil. That crap you cannot get to naturally, and you cannot produce it at home. You have to put that through serious industrial processes to get to it, to form it. But then they want to pass it off as though it's good for us to eat. It's utter nonsense. It's really bad for you. And so what industrialization allowed was it facilitated our ability to create foods, to really make brand new stuff that you don't find out in nature and is completely unrecognizable from its raw ingredients and the things that went into the making of it. Chocolate, for example. You don't find bars of chocolate out in nature. Marshmallows. You don't find marshmallows out in nature. Right? What what other examples? Cream soda, I think, was one that I brought up. Right, what the fuck is cream soda? Right? You don't find cream soda out in nature. There's no fruit that you can walk up to and squeeze the juice out and go, right, that tastes like cream soda. That's what cream soda is. Like, who the hell and how did they come up with cream soda or iron brew? Like, right, Coca-Cola, like, at least, I suppose, Fanta orange and Fanta grape have attempted to taste like a fruit. But like iron brew, cream soda, Mountain Dew, like all of that crap, like just completely artificial, right? Completely artificial. Dr. Pepper, completely artificial. Like, and that's what industrialization did for us. It gave us the ability to create foods. And a quote that I gave to Ryan today, and I can't remember whose quote it is. It's not mine. So you've probably heard it before, but it resonates in this context, and it is that man is the only creature on this planet intelligent enough to create his own food, but simultaneously the only creature stupid enough to actually choose to eat it. And that's really, really accurate, because we create all kinds of garbage that are nutrient devoid, calorie dense, and just flat out bad for you. But we sell it as food, and best of all, because we make money off of the making and selling of the thing, we're incentivized to make that thing sell as best possible. And the way that you do that with processed and ultra processed foods is you aim for bliss point. And bliss point is the point of absolute deliciousness at which you get a endorphin response in your brain. You get a release of endorphins, your feel good brain chemicals. And your brain likes that feeling. It likes the endorphins. So what your brain does is it hits you with a bunch of dopamine, which is your motivation hormone. And that's basically telling you that that behavior that you did, that thing that you ate or that thing that you drank, that gave you that release of endorphins. I like that. Do that more. Do that again. And over time, the dopamine drive forms habits, so neural circuits in your brain that are habit driven. And then you start to go into the realms of addiction as well, because it's that strong. So hyperpalatable foods are a real problem for a lot of people. And I know if I grab a bowl of ice cream, I'm done. There's no such thing. It's just a couple scoops of ice cream, or just a little bit of ice cream today, and I'll put it away and I'll have the rest tomorrow. Like, I love ice cream. I have a very unhealthy relationship with ice cream. If I have ice cream in the house, I'm going to eat it and it's going to be done. Like, if I allow myself that first bite, right? If I allow myself that first bite, with all the will in the world for it to only be that bite, I will fail. I will destroy the entire tub on my own. It won't even touch sides. And that's that neural pathway. Like, I get a really good endorphin hit out of ice cream. It tastes fantastic, like especially some of the Ben and Jerry's stuff. Like, the stuff is absolutely delicious, and it's absolutely wonderful, and I enjoy the hell out of it. I will smash the entire tub. It won't even touch sides. But that's a problem, because I could do that every night. I could do that every night, and I could do multiple tubs every day. And that would obviously lead me down the path to metabolic decline and health decline and disease onset. 100% it would. So the fact that industrialization allowed us to monetize foods, right, and specifically the artificial foods, the man-made, the created foods, the stuff that doesn't occur out in nature and doesn't in the slightest way, shape or form resemble the natural ingredients which contribute to its making. That stuff is engineered to be addictive. It's engineered to make you want more. It's engineered to sell. And that drives negative behaviors with food consumption and drink. And that's really bad. So yeah, we went over the whole culmination of fire, agriculture, and industry, and how these three led us to a point where in the Western world in this day and age, we have sufficient abundance of food that most people are not facing any real restriction in terms of what they want to eat. Like, yes, you may not be able to afford fillet every night, but you can afford to eat every night. And where was I going with this? Let me just think for a second. Yes, that's right. So we're at this point in our history where the majority of people have steady and regular access to food. I don't think that can be said for much of human history. Right? We have more access, more easy, more readily available access now in the Western world than at any point in human history before. But unfortunately, fire, agriculture, and industry have culminated in, because of the monetization of food, have culminated in a culture where it is profit that is the name of the game, not health. So industry went the way of chasing profit, and as I've just detailed, they've done that by chasing the bliss point in their product. They want it to be so delicious that it sells, that you want to buy more and you want to consume more, and that overrides your normal hunger and satiety hormones. It overrides your inbuilt, I've had enough, I don't need anything more. Industry did not lead us down the path of saying, okay, we have abundance now, what's optimal, what's best for health outcomes, and let's push that. That's not the reality that we're faced with. So yeah, it was an interesting discussion, and I'm starting to waffle now, but suffice to say, had no struggle with the fast for the last 3 days, have thoroughly enjoyed the workouts, and am well impressed with the energy levels and how good I feel. Enjoyed the podcast episode with Ryan today. I'll share it once he publishes it. Hope that at least some people find it interesting and enjoyable. I thoroughly enjoyed the discussion. And yeah, on the home straight now. So starting to think about how I'm going to break my fast. Thinking a bit of bone broth Friday evening, then maybe a glass of kefir a bit later. Kefir is a fermented milk, very good for replenishing the microbiome. It's got good bacteria in there, and it's actually a good one. So probiotics are a big thing and a popular thing, and I tend to prefer, because I follow an animal-based nutritional lifestyle, I personally prefer the bacterias that survive on animal products. So like a fermented dairy, I think serves me better than if I were to go for like sauerkraut, for example. I know some people love sauerkraut, and it's very good. Lots of raves and stuff about it, but I think it's a different kind of bacteria that you'll find on like a fermented dairy versus a fermented vegetable. And because I follow an animal-based diet, like I'm not giving my biome vegetables. Like I'm not giving them fiber to eat and thrive on. Like that's not what they're getting in my diet. They're getting animal fats, they're getting animal proteins, and they're getting animal products. So the species that thrive on animal products is the species that I probably want to foster and look after, and that's served me well so far. So yeah, glass of kefir, and then I know that I have to wait, and that's the hard part. Like once you've whet that appetite and you've had a little bit, and then you're made to wait at least a couple hours, I'd say 2 to 3 hours maybe, before having a proper meal, and that's to avoid the risk of refeeding syndrome. And refeeding syndrome is no joke. At a high level, as I understand it, your digestive system has effectively gone into hibernation over an extended fast because you haven't used it. Right? Gone into absolute hibernation, And it takes a bit of work to wake that up again and to get it to start producing all the digestive enzymes and the things that you need to digest your food and assimilate it properly. So that takes a little bit of work to get going. And if you, after a long fast with your digestive system in this state of hibernation, you go and smash a big meal, or even the wrong stuff, like you just eat inappropriately rather than a gentle reintroduction. Right? You don't wake your system up and it doesn't start functioning properly. You put yourself into a type of shock whereby, in order to try and digest the foods, your body sucks the electrolytes out of your bloodstream and repurposes them towards your digestive system to start producing digestive enzymes. And as I'm sure you can imagine, having the electrolytes just pulled out your bloodstream is catastrophic, and it can be fatal, like really serious. Like refeeding syndrome is no joke. It's not to be played with. So nice bone broth to break the fast. Just start waking that digestive system up with something that is rich in minerals, and yeah, just nice and easy. Glass of kefir, short while later, maybe half an hour later or so. And that again, it's a slow introduction of foods, and that also serves to replenish the gut. And then maybe a couple hours after that, 2-3 hours after that, what I'll do is I'll fire up the braai, which is the South African word for barbecue, except we do it better. And I'll do some steak on there, and just have steak, bit of salt, some water, and not a massive plate either, because again, like you need to give your digestive system time to come round. You can't just go big bang, like you're going to be starving and you're going to want to eat a mountain of steak, but you shouldn't. And it'd be good to hold back, smaller meal on Friday to break the fast, get back into eating. And then on Saturday, again, I don't eat breakfast, but what I might do is have a smaller lunch on Saturday, just again, still getting the digestive system going again. Dinner on Saturday night, and then pretty much back to my normal, then back to my one big meal a day from Sunday. So that's the plan. So far, so good. Have enjoyed it. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Do appreciate it. If you find this sort of content useful or interesting, then give a little like, a little subscribe. Would appreciate that. Have a fantastic evening.